Welcome to Beyond the Deal podcast. I am Jill Yahnite, and I welcome my guest, Chaz Jannuzi, co-owner of Match One Medical Marketing Consultants. Welcome, Chaz, to the podcast.
Thank you, Jill. Looking forward to a good conversation today. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes, I look forward to our conversation. So I have titled this podcast, How to Move Beyond a Sales Leader Only Organization. In our pre-conversation, we had a great little conversation about you starting your organization.
Yeah, thanks. Match One Medical, we founded in 2014. Myself and my business partner, Joe Herman, we both operated in the medical sales space, helping pain management offices through a couple of office-based platforms. We were very much at the epicenter of the opioid epidemic before it was called the opioid epidemic. We saw the ever-changing landscape of going from the problems brought to us by OxyContin to the next phase of solutions that were all just a different type of pill that did a different type of thing. In 2014, both Joe and I had experienced tragedies in our personal lives. Both of us had very close friends dating back to childhood that lost their a lifelong battle with addiction within the same week.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. October 2014, and knowing what we knew about the problems associated with opioid therapy and the patients population that was most in need, pain management patients are most in need of the most amount of pain medication. We felt that we could do something in our own little pockets of influence here in Pittsburgh and Detroit to offer doctors some solutions that wouldn't treat pain systemically, but that would treat pain at the source through wearable equipment with a multimodality approach, very similar to what you would experience if you were going to physical therapy. And we decided to enter that space, start a little side hustle,
Right.
with a very very small goal in mind at the very beginning was maybe this thing could pay for the two of our families to go on a vacation someday together.
Right. Wow.
Here,
Okay. So
here.
that was, you both had W-2 employee, you were both had jobs,
hmm
but you had an expertise,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
In the medical space where we operate and operated,
Mhm.
there's a lot of room for independent contracts with independent
Mhm.
distributors. Um, keeping you within the same customer base and call pattern. So it's somewhat of a natural thing to represent a couple different lines if your parent company allows for that sort of behavior.
Right.
Um, and what started as an idea of just another thing, once 2016 comes around and now it's called the opioid epidemic.
Mm.
Medicare starts reducing daily morphine equivalents, and we
Mhm.
started to get inbound calls. And for those of you that are on the call, on the podcast watching, the life of a salesperson is very much outbound. Rare that you will receive inbound opportunities, and
Right.
within a couple of month period, we started to get inbound calls that we couldn't continue to justify this being the other thing that we do. And at that point, we knew that we had an opportunity to do more than just a couple of guys selling some other devices, but to start something that we could make our own.
Okay. So fast forward, just to give the listeners some perspective. Fast forward, Match One Medical, how big are you now? And obviously, we're going to give the story, which is the important piece that I thought listeners and business owners would have some really good perspective of how that growth story happened. But where are you now, and how big are you now?
Yeah. So total employee count, we're at about 43 employees. We've
Okay.
branched into, we have a couple of different companies under or beside the Match One umbrella. So
Mm-hmm.
we're not just a sales organization anymore.
Right.
We have a robust sales team, but we are a medical provider. We are a licensed medical DME provider. So we're not just involved in the sales and marketing side, but we're also involved in the patient care side. We own our own medical laboratory to test patients that are still in need of opioid therapy, and
Mm-hmm.
we operate a minimally invasive spine company.
Okay. And then you also, just to also give some awareness, we talked about you also have a not profit
Yeah, yeah. So
as well,
we have
just
a
to give a little information on that too, right?
we founded a charitable organization, the American Foundation for Opioid Alternatives. Our passion for that mission is to provide access for injured student athletes, underinsured injured student athletes, primarily who get hurt playing contact sports, football specifically,
Mm-hmm.
access to best in class medical devices that their parents' insurance wouldn't otherwise pay for to help them through recovery and stay opioid naive.
Right, right. Because as we discussed, that sometimes is unfortunately what happens early on, right?
Yeah, the
Mm-hmm.
drug addiction at this point is very different than than whenever I was a kid. Um, you in the '90s, if you were doing drugs, you decided to experiment, and then that
Mm-hmm.
may have led to more. In today's day and age, most people that are suffering from addiction went to a doctor's office because they were injured,
Right.
got got access to pill therapy, which is appropriate. And one out of
Mm-hmm.
17 people, 6% of human beings, after 6 days, have the ability to become dependent upon opioid therapy. And so that's
Right.
one out of
Yes,
17
that's
people. That's a big
totally
number.
different. Right. So, over back to Match One Medical, because I wanted to give people, one of the reasons it was so important for me personally to interview you was not only for the podcast and the importance of giving business owners a perspective of starting a company as a sales led organization and transitioning it into not only going from 1099 employees over into W 2 sales led organization, but also because of what your organization is the focus of it, which I think is mission driven, and the importance of it it resonates with my heart. But I also give some perspective on the medical challenges, the healthcare challenges back in 2014, 2016, what the challenges that you had information, you had knowledge, but you also had challenges that you needed to go through to really uh, allow your company to be successful. Just to give the audience some perspective that they might not know about.
Yeah, so starting in the medical space to do something independently, it's very achievable and accessible to become a distributor.
Mm-hmm.
Small companies that don't have billion-dollar budgets to hire employees look to partner with independent contractors. As we became one of those, we needed to grow from the two of us as the sales people to create a sales organization. And our first entry into that was partner with other independent distributors. We over about a 2 year period, we grew from the two of us to 15, 16, 20 various partnerships with individuals and groups in an independent contractor capacity. And from a business development standpoint, it's a great path forward, and that's why most people stall out or choose to stay in that phase, because there's no cost, there's no upfront employment cost. It's a great strategy. You only win. There's only funds out. Time and effort, of course, but hard dollars are only exchanged hands when everybody wins together. It's a
Mm-hmm.
very attractive. It's a very attractive situation. it's also not scalable, in my opinion.
Right.
And after a couple of years, um, it's not possible to build I think a company infrastructure around 15 or 20 independent contractors because A, you don't have their full time and attention.
Okay.
It's not necessarily appropriate to give them quotas or demands.
Hmm.
It's,
Mm-hmm.
hey, what is it that you have to offer us, and that's all that we want you to give. It's some people that might be one doctor and one relationship. Some folks that might be 5 hours a day. Some people that might be 5 hours a week, and so it's you're bound to the success on accident that they're willing to give, right? You can't push for more other than finding one more person. And so we thought long and hard about what to do next and how to really turn ourselves from just another distributor into a regional and or maybe even a national sales organization for hire. Um, that came with the decision to hire full-time employees on
Okay.
a sales capacity. That's a risky business, Jill,
Right.
because on day one you owe them money, right? They're
Right.
an
Right.
employee. They're an
Right.
employee.
Right.
And what if you're not very good at hiring people? What if you're
Mm-hmm.
not very good at training people? What if they ended up just not being very good? Or what if the deck is stacked against them for success, and you're 3, 6, 9 months into this with $50,000 to $70,000 in outlay with no income,
Right.
right?
Right.
It
Right.
could cripple a business.
Right.
Uh, we started with our first group of three in 2018, and I'm happy to tell you that two of those three folks are still with us today, 7 years later. Um, right, we had the right people, we had the right infrastructure, um, and really set some expectations on what does it mean to be employed here at Match One. What do they do? What do they do whenever they get in their car, get behind the wheel of salespeople's offices or their steering wheel?
Mm-hmm.
You have to have You have to set proper expectations. Um, you have to rate people based off those expectations, and then you have to adjust accordingly as time and tenure moves along. And we use that initial group of three to to learn a little bit, to improve upon. But again, if two of the three of them are with us 7 years later, we started off on the right track. And I think
Right.
from a business advice perspective, um, setting up proper expectations for activity is more important than setting up activity, or rather setting up expectations for after the equal sign, which is sales and dollars, right?
Right. Right.
Create a series of steps that equal sales and money,
Right. Right.
and stick to that. And that's really that's how we've built the company. Not through every salesperson having one or two customers, but constantly prospecting for new business in a B2B sense. So we've taken the medical field and turned it into prospecting for new business like a B2B salesperson who works for a Cintas or a Xerox.
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot to unpack there. So if you could hang with me for just a second as I unpack a couple of things there. One is on when you still had the 1099 distribution model. Because I think that you're right. It's hard to drive culture there, right? It's hard to push them to uh, sell more of your product compared to others. I have had some owners that will say, well, I will offer them more for my product to get them to sell more of my product, right? Was there ever a conversation like that within your company
Well,
that you remember?
not
Or was it
everybody's
pro-
not everybody's motivated by more dollars, but in the
right?
independent contractor space, I agree with you 100%, or I agree with
Okay.
whoever said that to you.
Right.
If you over incentivize, which means give away more
Right.
of the end percentage, or the price tag, it is attractive, and it will have short term impact
Mm-hmm.
uh, to dive deeper with their customers and or maybe add one or two more, but then you hit the ceiling again.
Right,
One or two more,
right,
and
right.
so we did it. We tried it. I agree with I
But you
agree with that
still
advice.
hit the ceiling, right? And got to the point where it still was the point at which the diminishing returns, you still had to, if you wanted to grow more, the decision was to. So did you go through a point in which you still had that independent dealer, that network, and still had those first three hires?
Oh, absolutely. As we build
Okay.
relate, our the type of person that I am and that my partner Joe is whenever we work with somebody, we want to work with them forever. That's,
Mm-hmm.
in 2025, you hire somebody that's 23, are you going to work with them until they're 63? No. But sticking by your commitments is and was very important. Some of those independent contractors still work with us.
Okay,
Uh,
so you transitioned,
yeah,
you had a plan in
yeah.
that. Yeah.
A couple of them are now full-time employees.
Okay.
One of our original is so before we hired the three, one of the first independent contractors, we finally, after 8 years, enticed him to become a full-timer with us, and
Okay.
now he's running our surgical division. So yeah, we didn't kick those folks to the curb.
Nice.
Some of the ice cream melted and it went away, right? Some things expired because they got new jobs. They weren't in the
Mm-hmm.
orthopedic space, but we still have connections with some of those folks. And as we hired around them, they were here first. And so, hey,
Mm-hmm.
these are the 5 or 6 people or places that they go. You're
Mm-hmm.
now an employee of ours, and you get this geography. Don't go to these 5 or 7 places because that's where our
Right.
friend is. That's where
Right.
a partner of ours is.
Yeah. And so within that network, you had already established what I will call sales process. Uh, did you have a CRM? Did you have some of the fundamentals that, are within a traditional sales structure?
In the independent space at the time, we did not operate in a CRM,
Mm-hmm.
and we now have a CRM. We've
Mm-hmm.
gone through a couple different versions. I think if you want to be like a real company,
Mm-hmm.
CRM is a absolute requirement. It's not a nice to have. It's an absolute, and managing towards using it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole nother set of trainings and expectations. But we still haven't gone down the path to get our independent contractors using CRMs
Yeah.
for whatever reason. We haven't, and I don't know that we will, but it's a very important part of our business.
Okay, because that's as you transitioned then into a W 2, I'm sure you took some of those learnings from the sales process, from the independent side, as you transitioned and hired your first three. I think, did you use an outside resource or how did you go about hiring them? Did you hire people you already knew?
The first wave of hiring was all in Pittsburgh, so that's where our headquarters. That's where I'm sitting
Network.
today. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so it was a couple of different approaches, some word of mouth, some LinkedIn, and some Indeed, and
Mm-hmm.
found 3 people in 3 very different phases of life, and it was a success. Since then, if we're hiring for further away situations, recruiters are a big part of the equation. But in that first class, and as we continue to hire close to home, leaning into our customer base and our network has produced
Mm-hmm.
some really amazing employees.
Okay. All right. And then, as you talked about metrics and the metrics leading up to the volume and the sales results that you want, that's what obviously a CRM is really good for, along with knowing what your pipeline and, what from a ERP and all the operational values that you can get out of that. But that can come later, uh, which a CRM can give you. At first, I'm assuming you didn't have that CRM. did you use some of the values that you knew as that beginning salesperson, that you knew, okay, if I do this XYZ, I can get this results, to be able to give, okay, if I do 20 calls a day, I know that salesperson can be successful in the
Fortunately,
beginning.
I already mentioned the company Cintas. I worked for Cintas
Okay.
in my early 20s.
Yeah.
They're
Very.
if you want to get into the medical space and you don't know what to do first, get a job with Cintas first, and then
Mhm.
you will be an in-demand candidate after 3 years of success with Cintas. So
Mhm.
yes, I came into it with a B2B set of 3 years of experiences. Fortunately, my business partner Joe was when he got his first job, he went right into the operating room space, capital equipment space. And so we
Mhm.
came together with two very different backgrounds to create a B2B model in the medical space. And so
Yeah.
we're 11 years later, and still leaning on both principles that we operated under as employees in our 20s.
Right. Wonderful. So, switching topics a little bit, but also a very critical piece of this that I found very interesting in your story is the concept of bootstrapping your company versus bringing in investors. So, share a little bit about that story and your decision making process in why you chose that way.
So we're 11 years into this, debt free. We have in our
Congrats.
laboratory. Thank you. In our laboratory, we have five pieces of equipment that each cost like more than a Ferrari. So we would get loans. We would get loans when we would buy those devices. But for outside of that, we've operated in a debt free capacity. Um, Joe and I are both finance majors in college. Joe went a step further to get his MBA. We both had a very solid life grasp on P&L, credits and debits, um, and as we started to build it, when it was just us, and the inbound sales started to happen, and we decided to turn it into a bigger, better version. The bank account had growth, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I don't want to say we were lucky, but the idea of getting an outside investor to give us some money to run the business, and have a share in the decision making tree and the profit and loss tree. It was never something that we took consideration, and
Mm-hmm.
we always made sure that we stayed active in the revenue generating activities to
Okay.
keep revenue ahead of expenses and then project for growth, right? And so, hey, we not talking about the monthly P&Ls, but talking about revenue cycle management, understanding the flow of money to the company. Whenever we sell something in the medical world, when you sell something to a patient, the insurance company is really who's paying for that, right? Unless you're
Mm-hmm.
selling
Mm-hmm.
capital equipment to a hospital. But for the most part, you get money from the insurance company, and there's a delay in that.
Right.
So the things that you sell today, you can expect to get the money in 30 days from government insurances and maybe 90 days from state-funded workman's comps, autos, etc. And so having an understanding on revenue trailing allowed us to continue to project short-term financial situations. Now
Right.
you don't plan a business on a 90-day plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a track record of customers, a base of customers with an expectation of continued sales, you can multiply that out going forward. And hey, we can now expand into Illinois. We can hire a person in Colorado. We can hire a person in wherever, right? South Carolina.
Right.
So,
Right.
for business owners out there, not everybody went to college for finance. but I think it's a really good place to operate from if you
Yeah.
are debt free in your real life, not in your work life, and you have a good grasp on revenue cycle and expenses. Getting an investor, to each their own. I'm glad that we
Yeah.
didn't.
Right. Well, in the beginning, you had the advantage of being able to pull on that independent dealer network that you didn't have to pay them until they sold something,
Yeah.
right? The disadvantage what in that network was you didn't get paid until, you know, 30 or 90 days later, right? I mean, you did have to have your product approved,
Hmm.
right, in the
Yes,
Medicare and insurance network.
we had to
You
buy
had to go
our
through that.
expense ledger. We had to own the
Mm-hmm.
equipment. So we had to buy it from somebody. We have a rent
Mm-hmm.
of space.
Mm-hmm.
We have customer care, patient care coordinators, customer
Yeah.
service folks. So we have an operations staff.
Yeah.
And so yeah, there are front loaded expenses, for
Right.
sure, for
Right.
sure.
And
Again, Joe and I were vitally necessary to not just be at that phase, guys starting a business, but salespeople with a with a business that they were trying to pull together, right? And so
yeah.
it's
And
come
that.
a long way. I yearn for the opportunity. Any chance I get invited to go on a sales call, any
Yeah.
chance I get to go to a conference or a networking event, I'm all smiles because that's enjoyable. I was good at it, I think.
Yeah.
Um, and it's an opportunity for me to get back into what got us here, and then also for business. Anybody that's starting a business based on the thing they like to do, if
Mm-hmm.
you end up being good at running that business, you're not going to do you don't get to participate in the thing that you used to like to do that made the business.
Right. Right. Interesting. Well, it, true. True. So, talk to me a little bit. 2014, right, is when you started the business. Uh, Talk to me a little bit about how COVID impacted your business and then how things have changed after COVID.
So I mentioned the hiring class in 2018, and then we did a second hiring class in 2019, and then we did a third hiring class, which was our biggest one ever, 5 people. And we didn't get around to doing it in 2020. Or in 2019, the beginning of or the end of 2019, we hired 5 people, and they came to our office for day one training, March 1st of 2020.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
So, needless to say, we had 5 full-time employees just starting,
Mm-hmm.
and 14, 17 days later, the world shut down, right? And so,
Mm-hmm.
first things first, 14 days to flatten the curve was the thing that was that moment, right? You remember that.
Right. Right.
Our revenue is from 90 days ago. So
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna be okay to get through these 14 days. And so 14 days. Hey, let's polish the floors and clean the equipment. We have
Mm-hmm.
equipment with patients, so like our business is active. We went through the
Mm-hmm.
process to get state permission to stay open because we're part of the home health care continuum of care team. Anyways,
Right. Right.
as it drug on, everybody's thinking, this is the end of our small business. Well,
Mm.
what happened to us then were a couple of things that worked out, right place at the right time.
Right.
Number one, we were providing home health care.
Right.
Nobody was able to go to doctor's offices for months, right?
Right.
Um, and so we started to be able to, most of our sales opportunities leading up to that were knocking on doors, talking to doctors in person. So our people that couldn't go knock on doors anymore, we put them on the telephones and started making outbound calls, right? Hey, do you have any patients that just had knee surgery that are stuck at home? We can
Okay.
help. So we found that we can make sales happen over the phone, right? So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it allowed us to grow outside of our physical geographies, and then all of our patient deliveries and patient fittings. We're a DME provider, so we fittings. We'd go to the patient's home or meet them at their office, right?
Okay.
and nobody wanted you in their home anymore. So we started leaving the package on their front porch and doing iPhone FaceTime calls from the steering wheel.
Right.
That turned into Zoom. That
Right.
turned into YouTube videos, right? And so now you're in Alaska. We don't have anybody that's 2,000 miles close to you. We could help you as a patient if we got a prescription from a doctor in Alaska because of the skill set that we learned during the COVID shutdowns. FedEx as the intermediary and Zoom or video
Telehealth or whatever
telehealth.
it's
Yeah.
called.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, it COVID boosted our business. Now the second wave, the second part of the shutdowns, that then became kind of a dip, tragic
Right.
for some of our folks that like lost touch. Once you lose touch with your customer base, and
Mm-hmm.
then life happens, they forget about you, and so they're while we were here, we grew by 50% during that time. We probably came pretty close back down to where we started. Um, didn't have to let any of those new 5 people go.
That's good. That's great.
Got through it all. But the second wave was tough. But anyways, we got better
Yeah.
during COVID. Very fortunate that we didn't just turn off the lights for 14 days and try to sit at home.
Well, it sounds like you found a new opportunity. You retooled and were able to, like many companies that survived, right? Were able to find a new way to, okay, we're going to do this instead, right?
Yeah.
So, lastly, to kind of finish it up, I think that if you were to go back and look back, you've been very successful and continue to be very successful. Is there anything that you might have tweaked or done differently throughout this process?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Couple of what I know now are really important business strategies if you can implement them at the beginning.
Okay.
Most small businesses have tribal knowledge. The business
Mm,
is the business is here, and I have an
mm-hmm.
assistant and a right hand man. We
Mm-hmm.
all know how to do the business. If I'm on vacation, they know how to do the business. But the shelves are not stacked filled with binders with standard operating procedures.
Right.
I am not great at writing things down.
Right.
Making the decision to hire people in an administrative or an operations capacity that are good at writing things down or know that it's part of their job to write things down. If it happens once, there's a problem and then a solution, we should document it because the problem will happen again, right? And I don't
Mm-hmm.
mean like catastrophic problems, but like things that require answers to questions. So business owners, document your processes and your SOPs. Otherwise, you are nothing more than the information that's rattling around in your brain, and it's not scalable. So writing things down,
Hmm.
documenting processes and procedures. And the second thing, once you grow, right? So one or two people turn into 3 or 4 people. You have a flat org chart, and everybody reports up to one. Or we had Joey and I in various roles. Flat org chart. Somebody has an answer, a question. Chaz has an answer. You turn
Right.
into you turn into human Google. It's natural. I'm their boss. They don't have managers. The next phase of building a company out is creating departmental leaders. And if you can hire from within with tenured folks, um, that's even better than bringing in an outsider. But at that point, once you have department heads, connecting managers to be able to have question, have answer, and collaborate instead of everything going up and over and through me. I the business owner then becomes the bottleneck.
Mm.
If they're not around, manager of sales, operations, and administration, right? And so
Yeah.
quickly create an org chart that allows for managers to have independent meetings without you to learn how to collaborate, right? And then come to me with solutions to problems for validation. Hey, this is what we think that we should do. Okay, great,
Right.
good job. This is what we did. Even better.
Right.
The only warning for that is like if you're a parent, you understand like a helicopter parent mentality,
Mm-hmm.
or wrapping your kids in bubble wrap. If you are a helicopter business owner, your folks will never ever come up with independent thought.
Right.
And so I'm emphasizing that over the last couple of years with my team, right? And it's like I want to have Mike Krzyzewski. I'll leave you with this: the coach for Duke basketball,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
college basketball, the winningest coach of all time. A reporter came in and did an interview with him, and the first question for the reporter was, "Coach K, your desk is empty. I expected mountains and stacks of paperwork." And he said, "I have set up a team underneath of me that can get things done, that know how to do things without asking me how. And so I am basically air traffic control. If I get a
Right.
note, I know who to give the note to. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't necessarily answer the question. I know who to get to answer the question, and I keep a clean desk." I'm trying to live
Mm-hmm.
that life. Wish I would have got to that sooner, but it's been part of our success the last couple of years.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. I will also have business owners that sometimes will get also frustrated because sometimes for business owners, it will be, wow, that I always have the biggest problems that come to me. And I will point out that means that your team is handling all of the other problems, the easy ones, right? That is what they're there for, right? You only get the ones that they don't know how to handle or that they need your help with or that they need validation with, that they're going to handle it this way and they just want to make sure that you agree with that, right? And when you look at it that way as a business owner too, you go, oh, okay, yeah, that's right. I guess I am there to handle the really tough ones, right? In some
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah, it's
So,
it's a good phase to be in as a business
right.
owner. To have a
Yeah.
team of leaders underneath of me that
Yeah.
um, are collaborative and can can take things from a field to a manager to an operations person to a billing and coding specialist and get the answers, and not everything has to filter through my inbox or through my phone.
Yeah. And I agree that even if you think they made the wrong decision, if you hear why they made that decision and go, okay, I see why you made that decision, I might have made a different decision, but not, like you said, be that helicopter or be, right, not slap them down and yell or whatever, right? Allows them to be able to make mistakes and but allow you to voice as the owner, I might have done that differently, but allows them to know that they're safe,
Yeah.
right?
Next step, I'm working with the managers to have that same sort of mindset with with the people that report up to them. And
Right.
some people have to touch the stove to burn their hand to know that it's hot, and some people will just take your word for it. Somebody's told
Mm-hmm.
me that if I touch the hot stove, I'm going to get burnt, so I don't need to do it. Not everybody operates the same way, and
Right.
sometimes you have to let somebody touch the stove.
Yeah. Well, Chaz, thank you very much for sharing your story, some of your perspective, and also lessons learned. I hope that some of the people who listen to the podcast get some value from it. Again, if you want to give another little plug for your nonprofit, please give some information here again.
Yep, we'll start off with the easiest part. The website is www.taffoa.com, TAFFOA.com, the American Foundation for Opioid Alternatives. There's a donate now button. We're here to support injured student athletes, recovering drug addicts, going through surgical care, and injured veterans going through surgical care that would like to not use opioid therapy. So if you can give a hand, please donate, and we much appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Chaz. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jill.